The Vitali family operated on one unspoken rule: the louder you were, the more you mattered. And I, Maya Vitali, had never been loud. My grandmother, Nonna Rosa, was a force of nature. She immigrated from Sicily in 1965 with her husband, Nonno Angelo, settling in Providence, Rhode Island. They started with nothing. Angelo worked construction, and Rosa cleaned houses. By the time I was born, they built a portfolio of 12 rental properties across Federal Hill, modest triple-deckers mostly, but solid and profitable. By 2015, the portfolio was worth $2 million, generating $22,000 a month in rent. My grandfather passed when I was 8. After that, Nonna Rosa ran everything herself, collecting rent, managing repairs, dealing with difficult tenants. At 75, she was sharper than most people half her age. Everyone assumed the properties would eventually be divided among her children, my father Leonardo, my uncle Vincenzo, and my aunt Gabriella, and through them, the grandchildren. Then there was my sister Isabella, the golden child. Outgoing, married to a successful contractor, 2 kids, a house in Cranston, and the perfect life to impress Italian grandmothers. My cousin Matteo, Uncle Vincenzo's son, worked in finance and constantly boasted about investments. My cousin Valentina, Gabriella's daughter, married a doctor, lived in a sprawling colonial, and posted incessantly about her perfect life. And then there was me. 28, unmarried, a high school English teacher earning $51,000, living in a small Providence apartment, driving a 9-year-old Honda Fit. Quiet, unremarkable, invisible. At family gatherings, I sat at the far end of the table while Isabella, Matteo, and Valentina held court, talking vacations, renovations, and achievements. Adults nodded, praising them. When someone asked about me, it was always pitying, still teaching. That's nice, doesn't pay much, though, does it? I learned early, being invisible was easier than constant comparison. But Nonna Rosa saw me differently. While everyone orbited around the loud, flashy grandchildren, she noticed the quiet one who actually showed up. Every Sunday, I visited her after church, not for favors, but because I loved her. We sipped espresso strong enough to wait the date while she recounted stories of Sicily, building a life from nothing, surviving, thriving, and showing me what determination truly meant. When I was in college, juggling tuition and 2 part-time jobs, Nonna Rosa quietly helped me. Not loans or big gifts, just cash tucked into envelopes. Education is something nobody can take from you, she said in her thick Sicilian accent, pressing bills into my hand. She never made it feel like charity, it was her way of investing in someone who showed up. After graduation, when I rented my first small apartment, she quietly gave me money for the security deposit. Don't tell the others, she warned. They don't need to know everything. That was classic Nonna Rosa, practical, private, and fiercely protective. By 2016, my visits to her home weren't just about espresso and stories anymore. I began helping with her properties. First, I accompanied her to collect rent, then started handling minor repairs, managing tenant communications, and eventually overseeing the portfolio alongside my teaching job. The others, Isabella, Matteo, Valentina, showed up occasionally for holidays or birthdays. They brought gifts, took pictures, posted on social media, but never dealt with a broken water heater at 2 a.m., a difficult tenant eviction, or burst pipe in the middle of winter. That was my responsibility. Every single time. I became her right hand, gradually learning the ins and outs of property management, contracts, maintenance scheduling, rent collection, even tax paperwork. The more I helped, the more I realized how much Nonna Rosa trusted me. She didn't just need someone to follow instructions, she needed someone who understood the heart of her work, who respected the families living in her buildings. By 2018, I was essentially co-managing everything. Meanwhile, my Lao cousins continued their lives of flashy displays and social media boasting, never noticing the hours I spent ensuring the properties ran smoothly. Then one day, Nonna Rosa asked me to meet her at her attorney's office. I assumed it was routine paperwork about the properties. But when I walked into the office, everything changed. Maya, Nonna Rosa said, holding my hand across the conference table. I'm not getting any younger. I need to make sure these properties go to the right person. I blinked. They should be divided among Dad, Uncle Vincenzo, and Aunt Gabriella, I said immediately. That's only fair. Fair. Nonna Rosa's dark eyes sharpened. Let me tell you about fair. Your father thinks these buildings are a retirement plan. Your uncle wants to sell them for some scheme his son Mateo keeps talking about. Your aunt thinks they're beneath her now that she's moved to Bington. You are the only one who understands what these buildings really are. They are homes. They are a legacy. And I built them with my own hands. Her attorney, Marco DeSantis, slid a stack of documents toward me. Nonna Rosa continued, I'm transferring all 12 properties to you through an irrevocable trust. It executes immediately. You will own them. You will manage them. You will protect them. My heart pounded. The quiet granddaughter, invisible for years, suddenly had the keys to a multi-million-dollar legacy. After signing the trust documents, life became a careful balancing act. Publicly, I was still Maya Vitali, the struggling high school teacher with a small apartment and an old Honda. Privately, I was the owner of a $3.2 million property portfolio, generating $22,000 a month in rental income. The knowledge felt surreal. After years of being invisible, I now held a tangible legacy in my hands. I continued teaching because I loved it. My apartment remained small because it was enough. And my old car. It ran perfectly fine. Every penny from the rental income went back into the properties. I renovated each unit meticulously, new kitchens, updated bathrooms, fresh paint, modern appliances. I didn't slap on cosmetic fixes. I did quality work my nonno Angelo would have been proud of. I raised rents gradually to market rates, always fair. I became known among tenants as responsive, reasonable, and tough when needed, but never cruel. My tenant retention rate soared above 80%, a feat in working-class neighborhoods. Meanwhile, my cousins continued their performative visits. Isabella stopped by once a month for photos, Mateo occasionally checked in during holidays to boast about investments, and Valentina updated her social media with staged family moments. None of them dealt with burst pipes at 3 a.m., tax appeals, or maintenance emergencies. That was my life, quiet, demanding, and unseen. I learned everything I could about property management, landlord-tenant law, and real estate investment. I even took online courses in accounting and finance. Slowly, I became an expert in something no one in my family could understand, the patient, invisible work of building real wealth. By 2020, the portfolio's value had grown to $4.1 million, and monthly rental income reached $26,000. I had paid off 2 properties entirely, increasing net monthly income to $16,250 after expenses. Yet at family gatherings, I was still poor Maya the teacher, the cousin people patted on the shoulder with pity. Nonna Rosa watched quietly from the sidelines, smiling when she noticed that I showed up consistently, for her, for the tenants, for the legacy she had built. She never said much publicly, but I knew she was proud. I also began noticing subtle signs of greed and entitlement among my cousins. Their assumptions about the inheritance grew bolder every year. They bragged about hypothetical property profits, discussed renovation plans in front of me, and made casual remarks that exposed their complete lack of involvement in the real work. The quiet life I led allowed me to observe them closely, learning their patterns and expectations. Every Sunday, every holiday, every minor interaction was a lesson in who they were and what they valued. While they lived in their illusions of wealth and importance, I held the keys to the very properties they assumed would be theirs. By 2023, I was ready. I had watched, waited, and learned everything I needed. The time would come for the family to discover the truth, but until then, I moved silently, managing a fortune they didn't even realize I controlled. June 2023, Nonna Rosa's 80th birthday. The entire Vitali family had gathered in a rented hall, crowded with 40 relatives, catered Italian food, and a DJ blaring music. It was chaos, laughter, and flash photography, a perfect stage for performative generosity. I had spent the morning helping Nonna Rosa get ready, ensuring she had her medications, arranging her outfit, and sipping espresso with her in the quiet of the kitchen. I knew she was tired but happy. Isabella, my sister, arrived late with a bouquet so large it blocked her face and an elaborate photo setup. Matteo gave a toast about legacy and honoring Nonna Rosa. Valentina posted 17 photos to Instagram before the appetizers even arrived. Meanwhile, I stayed in the background, unnoticed as usual. During dinner, I overheard a conversation that made my stomach drop. Vincenzo, my uncle, leaned toward my father Leonardo and Aunt Gabriella. "Mo's getting older," he said quietly. "We need to start planning the transition of the properties." Leonardo nodded. "Agreed. We should meet, just the three of us, and figure out how to divide things fairly. 12 properties, 3 ways." Gabriella chimed in, calculating on a napkin. "We keep the best ones and sell the rest for cash." Vincenzo added, "We should bring in Matteo, he knows finance. He can maximize the value." I froze. They were planning the family estate in real time, with Nonna Rosa sitting 20 feet away, and I wasn't even mentioned. Not as a manager, not as an heir, not as someone who had been running these properties for years. I excused myself to the bathroom and quickly called Marco DeSantis, Nonna Rosa's attorney. "They're planning to divide the properties among themselves," I whispered. "Soon. They have no idea about the trust. Are you ready for this?" Marco asked calmly. I exhaled. "No. But it doesn't matter. This was always going to happen. Grandma planned it this way." Marco's voice was serious. "Maya, this is going to get ugly." "I know," I said. "But Nonna Rosa gave me this gift for a reason. I'm not going to apologize for it." I slipped back into the hall, watching them talk, laugh, and calculate, oblivious to the fact that the properties they assumed were theirs had been legally mine for 5 years. Every boast, every casual plan to sell or divide the assets, was now a performance for someone who already held all the power. The quiet granddaughter had become invisible no longer. I watched from the sidelines as my family continued their plans, oblivious to the truth. Leonardo, Vincenzo, and Gabriella were deep in discussion about how to divide Nonna Rosa's properties. Isabella, Matteo, and Valentina nodded along, excited about the imagined windfall. I texted Marco DeSantis, Nonna Rosa's attorney, who had been waiting outside. 30 seconds later, the doorbell rang. Gabriella frowned, annoyed. Who could that be now? I walked to the door. There stood Marco DeSantis, sharp in a tailored suit, carrying a leather briefcase that exuded authority. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "I'm Marco DeSantis, attorney for the Vitali Family Trust. I understand there's been discussion about property distribution." He stepped past me into the living room where my family sat frozen in various states of confusion. I followed quietly. Marco set his briefcase on the coffee table and opened it with precision. "Thank you for inviting me. There may be some misunderstandings regarding ownership of the properties in question." "Who the hell are you?" Matteo demanded, rising from his seat. "As I said," Marco replied calmly, "I'm the attorney for the Vitali Family Trust. I worked with Nonna Rosa for over 20 years, including the establishment of an irrevocable trust in March 2018. He pulled out a thick folder and laid it on the table. In March 2018, Nonna Rosa executed an irrevocable trust transferring all 12 properties to her granddaughter, Maya Vitali. The trust executed immediately, ownership transferred at that time, not upon Nonna Rosa's death. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Isabella gasped. "That's impossible." "They belong to the Vitali Family Trust," Marco continued, "administered by and for the benefit of Maya Vitali." He opened documents, showing each property deed, notarized and filed with the Providence County Recorder's Office. He presented 5 years of property management records, renovation receipts, tax returns, and tenant logs. Every detail proved that I had been the legal owner and active manager all along. 5 years. Leonardo whispered, disbelief spreading across his face. "Yes," I said quietly, feeling calm but firm. Nonna Rosa wanted to see how the family would act when they thought I had nothing. Isabella jumped to her feet, furious. "You're lying. You manipulated Nonna Rosa. You stole our inheritance." "I didn't steal anything," I said, my voice steady. "I earned this through 5 years of work, managing properties, handling emergencies, and showing up when no one else did." Marco laid out my property management logs: 47 renovations, 23 evictions, 312 maintenance emergencies, including 14 after midnight, tenant retention at 83%, a record my cousins couldn't even comprehend. Matteo went pale, Isabella shrieked, and Valentina stared at the floor. For the first time, the loud, entitled cousins were powerless. The quiet granddaughter, the one they had dismissed for years, held all the cards. The room erupted into chaos. Isabella's voice pierced the air. "You've manipulated Nonna Rosa. You're a liar. You stole everything from us." Matteo's face was pale, hands trembling. 5 years, 5 years of us thinking we were going to inherit, and you never said a word. I stayed calm, letting the evidence speak for itself. "I didn't steal anything. I showed up when you didn't. I worked while you boasted. Nonna Rosa gave me this because I earned it, not because of family expectations." Gabriella sputtered, "This is elder abuse. You convinced a sick, old woman to cut out her own children." "She wasn't sick," I said firmly. "She was sharp and aware. She gave her estate to the person who actually showed up, who cared about the properties and the people in them, not to those who only cared about profit." I stood up, walking toward them, letting my voice cut through their shouting. "For 5 years, I managed these properties. I collected rent at 6 a.m., handled evictions, burst pipes, broken furnaces, and countless emergencies. I spent weekends painting, evenings reviewing tenant applications, and countless hours ensuring these homes were well kept." "Where were you?" Isabella froze. "Well, we don't exactly." "You weren't there." Isabella, when was the last time you visited Nonna Rosa outside a holiday or her birthday? I asked. She opened and closed her mouth, unable to answer. Mateo, I continued, how many times did you offer to help with the properties instead of just talking about what you'd do once they were yours? He looked away, shame and fear in his eyes. Valentina, have you ever even been inside one of the rental units? Do you know where they all are? She stared at the floor, silent. And all three of you, I said, turning to Leonardo, Vincenzo, and Gabriella, when was the last time any of you spent real time with Nonna Rosa? Not birthday visits, not holiday dinners, but truly listening, caring, helping. Their jaws worked, but no sound came out. She knew, I said quietly. Nonna Rosa knew exactly what would happen if she left the properties to be divided among you. The buildings would be sold, liquidated for debt, and her legacy destroyed. She entrusted them to me because I respected the work, the tenants, and the legacy. Isabella's face twisted with rage. Mateo shook his head in disbelief. Gabriella's fingers fumbled with her napkin. For the first time, the arrogance and entitlement that had guided them for years were powerless against reality. I exhaled, letting the weight of my words sink in. The family's illusion of control had crumbled, leaving them exposed, powerless, and silent. After the confrontation, the Vitali family was in shambles. Isabella refused to speak to me, blocked me on social media, and warned her children I was a bad influence. Mateo avoided eye contact entirely, humiliated by his assumptions and exposed mistakes. Gabriella fumed silently, her attempts to contest the trust falling flat after Marco DeSantis' meticulous documentation. Maya Vitali had won, not true drama or confrontation, but true consistency, dedication, and quiet perseverance. The 12 properties were mine legally and completely, the portfolio now worth $4.8 million. I had paid off 4 buildings entirely, raising monthly rental income to $31,000, with annual net income around $240,000. I continued teaching at my small high school for a while, because I loved it. But soon, the growing responsibility of managing not only my original 12 properties but also additional clients who trusted my expertise required my full attention. I converted the first floor of one of the triple-deckers into a modest office. Vitali Property Management was born. Every property received the same care I had given from the beginning: renovations, fair rents, tenant satisfaction. I wasn't building wealth to show off, I was preserving a legacy my Nonno Angelo and Nonna Rosa had painstakingly created. Lucia, my cousin, approached me quietly at the cemetery 2 years earlier and offered her help. Now, she worked as my assistant, studying real estate while learning hands-on property management. She reminded me of myself at that age, eager, careful, loyal. Together, we expanded the business responsibly, building trust with small landlords in the community. I also created a scholarship fund for Providence Public School students pursuing education degrees. Teaching had been my passion, and I wanted to ensure that others could follow that path without financial barriers. Nonna Rosa would have approved. The Vitali family continued their lives, mostly removed from mine. We were civil at unavoidable gatherings, weddings, funerals, but the warmth was gone, and that was fine. I had built my own family of people who valued work, loyalty, and integrity over entitlement and noise. Occasionally, my father reached out, suggesting reconciliation. I listened once, calmly explaining that respect and acknowledgement had to come first. Until then, I had nothing to discuss. Last month, I closed on a 13th property, a beautiful triple-decker with solid bones, needing work but full of potential. Standing inside, planning renovations, I thought of the birthday party, the chaos, the documents, and the stunned faces. I didn't regret a second of it. Nonna Rosa had taught me the most important lesson: loyalty, presence, and respect are earned, not inherited. Some people deserved it, some didn't. The $4.8 million portfolio was just proof. I had the freedom, the legacy, and the life I had quietly built all along. And now, I could live it fully, on my own terms.